Alright, this is my video on the Terraforming Mars expansion Turmoil's corporations. What I do is I go through and give a little analysis on each of the different corporations using a SWOT chart. And if you haven't seen my explanation as to how I interpret that before, take a look at my first video on the base game corporations and I explain it a bit there. What I then do is take a look at the strategy overall for the corporation, how I feel it works best. I take a look at some interesting cards, maybe some fun combos, maybe not the best ones, but ones that might be interesting. And then I give an overall ranking at the end. If you think I got something wrong, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your opinion. Thanks. All right, first up we have Lakefront Resorts. Lakefront Resorts, you start with 54 ME. Its effect is when any ocean is placed, increase your ME production one step. And it has another effect that your bonus for placing adjacent oceans is 3 ME instead of 2. And it's a building tag. What's helpful internally for this corporation has a strong start. $54 is a very healthy dollar amount. And I find typically people play preludes quite early that contain oceans. So you can even get a couple mega credit production just by other people playing preludes, which is great. What's harmful internally is that if people have basically not been playing oceans or playing ocean cards or finding some sort of engine that plays oceans, you can be in a tough spot. What's helpful externally, though, is that you're flexible. Again, mega credits are great because, again, they're flexible. You can do pretty much anything with them. It puts you in a very good spot kind of going into the game where you can kind of lean on your cards a bit and find what works best for you. What's harmful externally is that, again, you don't really have any big threats externally that are harmful. It's kind of mostly just staying open, finding what works best, and kind of sticking with it. My overall strategy for this corporation is lots of building tiles. So again, you want to try and put as much as you can on the board to get the extra dollar amount. That's always a good thing. Again, you don't necessarily have to do that because, again, you have mega credits, so you're open to a whole bunch of different things. What are some fun combos for this corporation are forests, forest cards, things like ecological zone that put animals onto this card when you play a forest, etc., etc. Putting stuff on the board generally, cities, forests, building tiles, those sorts of things. Also, obviously, playing oceans to get the mega credit production, that's always good too, but you also want other people to play those so that you're also getting the dollar amount without having to pay for it, the production. Player count is kind of neutral. My overall ranking for this one's an S. I'm kind of biased with this one. I like it because of its flexibility and its openness and its generality. I don't think it's probably actually not an S, but that's okay. It's probably an A, maybe even a B+, but personally I'm giving it an S. All right, next up we have Pristar. Pristar, you start with 53 ME, decrease your TR 2 steps, terraform rating, and you have 1 victory point per preservation resource here. Its effect is during your production phase, if you did not get TR so far this generation, add 1 preservation resource here and gain 6 ME. So what's helpful internally for this corporation has an interesting start. You can kind of leverage the $53. The -2 mega credit production with the -2 terraform rating is very harmful, I think. But it's kind of a cool corporation. It's kind of unique. What's harmful internally is that it needs, again, production. It doesn't kind of self-suffice. Getting the $6 for the effect can be good, but it's not kind of where you want to be creme de la creme. What's helpful externally is that you can get some good victory points off of this, especially if you can focus on it. It's kind of cool and interesting to do. And what's harmful externally is that you can basically, if you get no good draftable cards, then you're kind of in a tough spot. And I'll talk about that in the strategy in just a second. So my overall strategy for this corporation is it's very interesting. It's very card based. A lot of it is trying to get victory points on cards rather than, increasing your terraform rating through whatever global parameters indeed you're doing that with. Some fun combos are victory point cards or engine cards. So penguins. You can also do this with cities and try and, take it to other people's forests and load the board up that way. But basically things that don't up your terraform rating. Try and use your ability to its greatest effectiveness. Player count, I find this one to be a bit neutral. It doesn't really, it's not harmful either way. My overall ranking for this one, though, is a C. All right, next up we have Septem Tribus. So you start with 36 ME. When you perform an action, the wild tag here counts as a tag of your choice. Wild tags are great. Your action is gain 2 ME for each party delegate where you have at least 1 delegate. So I find what's helpful for this corporation internally is that, again, it has a bit of a slow start, but you can also use Turmoil to its greatest effectiveness. I know that's not very helpful, but as you'll see in a minute, I don't think very highly of this one. What's harmful internally is it focuses on Turmoil. Turmoil is not what you always want to focus on. Putting out delegates just by paying the dollar amount to do so can be okay in the right situation, but the majority of the time it's not where you want to be, in my opinion. What's helpful externally is you can own the Turmoil game, so you can really focus on that, really focus on using this to its highest ability, putting a delegate, in as many places as you can to try and get those $2 discounts. What's harmful externally, I guess it's not a discount, it's just straight money, but regardless. What's helpful externally is it has very limited synergies. Because it's so Turmoil focused, it doesn't really synergize with a lot of the other expansions or base game. As my strategy for this corporation is spam the Turmoil, have fun with it, go long. Fun combos can be silly Turmoil cards like Martian Media Center, where you can just pay $3 to add a delegate to any parties. This is a very good card. And you also get the 2 mega credit production. This one works very well with this corporation, I find. Player count, you want less because you want to have more people. You want to have less people, I should say, combating you with the Turmoil expansion kind of cards and with the Turmoil expansion board set. And then my overall ranking for this one's an F. I really don't think it works very well. It's not for me. Maybe this one is a little bit better than what I'm thinking, but again, this is just my personal opinion on it. All right, next up we have Terralabs Research. So you start with 14 ME, lower your Terraform rating 1 step, and its effect is buying cards to hand costs 1 ME, including your starting hand. You also get 1 science tag and 1 earth tag. What's helpful internally for this corporation is you can basically always buy the cards if you want, because again, you can just turn around and sell them. You may not want to buy every single card, especially ones that you can't play, obviously, or cards that you think are just really bad. But for the vast majority of them, you can buy whatever you want and then see what's open. It's a kind of an interesting spot to be in. What's harmful internally, though, is it has an extremely slow start, and I think that's pretty obvious. With the -1 TR and the $14, it's a very difficult spot to start from. What's helpful externally is you can hold all your cards that you want to buy, and you can always wait and see. And what's harmful externally is never get any production going, so you kind of get stuck in this limbo where you're just buying cards and you don't get any production. You really need to ramp up with this corporation so that you can have the money to hold on to all these cards and then use it to its highest effectiveness. My strategy for this corporation, again, is buy all the cards. Hopefully you can get some really good preludes that go with this. If you get some good production preludes, then you can really kickstart your game to this one. Fun combos are cool production cards, earth tags that give you money. So mining area is an example of a good production card that can also give you resources when you play it. Well, it will. Player count, I find less is better. You want this game to go long because you want to focus on that production, hit the midpoint, collect all the cards, have a good hand of really good cards, and then just start playing them all. My overall ranking, unfortunately, for this one's a D. I think it could be a bit better, but I haven't seen it used to its highest effectiveness. I could definitely see it being a very good corporation if you get the right cards in your hand, if you get the right preludes, and I guess that's part of your setup and part of your, what is my strategy going to be? Seeing your opening cards, seeing your opening preludes, and seeing your opening corporations. Maybe this one can be a bit better than what I've said it is, but in my experience, it's a D. All right, next up is Utopia Invest. So you start with 40 ME, increase your steel and titanium production each 1 step. Its action is decrease any production to gain 4 resources of that kind, and it's a building tag. What's helpful internally is it has an okay start, $40 with the production of the steel and titanium is very good. What's harmful internally is the ability is not so great at the beginning of the game because, again, if you're, downing your production in something, you're not going to be getting that for the rest of the game. You'll be getting it for 4 more turns. It's great later in the game, but the ability is not so great at the beginning unless you can, again, leverage it so that it also gives you more production when you're doing that. So if you're, getting 1 production of titanium, you might not mind dropping it so that you can get 4 titanium to pay for the card that you're actually playing. What's helpful externally for this corporation is you can plan for the end and you can be a little bit flexible. So whenever the situation arises or it works with the cards that you have, you can kind of put something down, use those resources, and then maybe hopefully put it back up again. What's harmful externally is that, again, people can hate draft your production and then you're kind of stuck in limbo. It's hard to hate draft production of everything, but sometimes this can be kind of a difficult spot. My overall strategy for this corporation is to, boost production, boost your production cards, get as much as you can out there. You can down heat if you want to get 4. 4 heat is good. Getting 4 4 plants, I should say, out there and using that can be very, very strong. Some cool production cards that you can use are like magnetic field generators, where you can, you leverage your plus minus a little bit. But there's lots of cards in the deck that do this. Again, subtracting your heat production, subtracting maybe dollar amount, and this gets better later in the game because, again, you're not going to be feeling the effects of that. You're actually going to be getting a net increase, so it's cool to use. Player count for this one I think is neutral, and my overall ranking for this one's a B. I think you can do well with this one. I don't know if it's an A or an S, I wouldn't say that, but I think this one's a solid corporation. Alright, so that was my video on the Terraforming Mars Turmoil expansion corporations. If you think I got something wrong, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your opinion. The next video I'm going to do is the promo corporations. So there's a few different ones there, mostly from BGG. There's 3 from there, and then there's also some other ones from like the big box expansion, etc., etc. But I'll be taking a look at those. Hopefully I'll be doing the community or Ares based ones. If you haven't played those before, they're kind of just like a community fan based ones, but they're interesting and fun to look at as well. And then my overall kind of thing I'm going to do after I've done all of the different corporations is to do a big tournament, kind of like March Madness if you're familiar with basketball, where each of the corporations go against one another. And I'll explain that when I get to it, but that's kind of my overall goal. This is just a passion project of mine. Thanks for watching.